Louise mcsharry knows how to hold a room. If you've heard her on the airwaves, and you most definitely have, you've felt how. Warm but razor sharp, accessible but uncompromising, gentle yet unflinchingly brave. Louise brings a balanced magic to her journalism that invites you to relax. You trust her, she gets it, and you want to stay a while. Born in Dublin and partly raised in the States, Louise returned to the Pale in her late teens and briefly studied arts at UCD before realising that radio was her calling. She says, "I just knew that if I could get into a radio station, that would be the path for me." Spoiler alert, she was right. Her first break came at the then fledgling News Talk after emailing editor Paul Dunn and telling him that despite there being no job openings, that he would not regret taking her on. Spoiler alert, she was right again. What started as a foot in the door quickly became something more, from showbiz snippets to research gigs and even stock market reports. Louise kept at it, nudging the hinge of broadcasting open until it swung wide, revealing a room of her own. By 2010, she joined RTE, and before long, Louise was a household name. Whether it was late nights, weekend mornings, or slots in between, her voice became part of the national rhythm, adding substance, sparkle, and soul to the broadcaster until her departure 11 years later. For almost anyone, this tenure would have been the arc, but for Louise, it was the beginning. Her idol, Dolly Parton, may have had a coat of many colours, but Louise, she has a bow of insurmountable creative strings. Chief among them, of course, is her tri-weekly podcast, Catch Up with Louise mcsharry. You see, Louise has done all the big stuff. Written a book, graced the Late Late Show, walked red carpets, penned beauty columns, sold out live shows. But somehow it's not those accolades that have kept audiences listening. It's the little things, the way she bravely spoke about self-image during cancer treatment, the way she speaks about raising her two sons, the way she's frank about everything from mascara to Doll Erin to Real Housewives. Louise has something to say. She knows how to include others in the conversation, and she's not afraid to raise a perfectly manicured hand up when she says she's still figuring it out. What she's offering is the process, the honesty of sometimes not knowing, the vulnerability of being eager, feeling silly, and wanting more. She says, "My greatest decision has been to be tenacious and to ask for things that I want, not to wait for things to happen to me. All that stuff doesn't come naturally to me. I have to make a decision to push it, but looking back, making the decision to push it is the best thing I've ever done." Falter Craig local baby, Louise mcsharry.
Oh my God. That is the best introduction I've ever heard.
Stop.
Like, for anything ever. Normally I don't, if I do things like this, I don't listen afterwards because I feel like a little uncomfortable listening to, people talk about me. But that was amazing. I'm so glad I was here for that. Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
Also, can I say shit? Holy shit, you have done your research. That's unbelievable. Wow. Thank you.
I'm dying. Feature Alice. Cut.
That's like my year made. I'm going to need you to send that to me for days when I feel like I'm absolutely achieving nothing.
Wow. Okay, phenomenal.
What a start.
I mentioned there you're always open to hearing others' opinions, and I'm a big fan of your podcast, and that's something that you bring up all the time. You're like, let me know if you disagree with me. You always leave space for disagreement and correction. And that's kind of rare to see in media today. What does that actually look like to you? Like getting those critiques, how do you value that?
It's tricky because I think it's really important, especially because I come from obviously a public service radio background. And before that, as you said, I started my career in News Talk, where accuracy is so important. If you're doing current affairs broadcasting, you cannot get things wrong. And if you get them wrong, you need to correct it. And, working for the national broadcaster, obviously you need to make sure that what you say is accurate as well. So I still hold a really high standard of accuracy for myself, but I don't have a team. I don't have a radio station behind me. It's just me and my contributors, who are amazing, but they are also just individual people.
Sure.
So mistakes will happen. So it's really important to me that the door is open, so that if I make a mistake, I find out about it. I would hate to get something wrong and put the wrong information out there. And it's happened before on the podcast, where we have gotten something wrong. But at least if I find out, I can correct it. I think at one stage, earlier in my career, I wanted to be Marion Finucane. I was like, I want to be an icon of, Irish female broadcasters.
I mean, gold.
Someone who's at the tippy top, but who, has actually done useful stuff or uncovered useful things. And I really thought that was in RTE. I thought I needed to be in RTE to do that. And then when it became kind of clear to me that wasn't going to happen, and that was before I finished in RTE, I had a meeting about 6 months before I finished in RTE, and I came out of it going, I don't think it's going to be here. Like, I don't think that's the path. I'm not going to be Marion Finucane, and like, that's okay. And also, you know, I want to talk about the housewives, and I want to be silly, and I want to be a little less formal, and I want to have opinions about matters of public debate, which I couldn't do in RTE, you know, which was really tough around like repeal and the marriage equality referendum, for example. So, you know, I just had to change direction. And now it's not so much about everyone knowing my name. I mean, honestly, that's not important to me anymore, or being like one of the most famous broadcasters in Ireland. It's more about cultivating my audience and like building something that means something to us, and not trying to appeal to everyone, because I would never succeed at doing that. Like, you know, you mentioned that the way I got the opportunity, my first radio opportunity in News Talk, was because I sent an email and I was like, you won't regret it. Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
Love.
Like, that was not me. And I remember sending it and being like, oh my God, like, what was that? But that's what got it for me.
Yeah, literally.
You know?
And the stock reports on that. I honestly was like doing the research. I was like rewinding this interview that you did so long ago. And I was like, I did hear, and then I was Googling stock reports are definitely what I think they are.
Yeah. I mean, I really should not have been doing them. I mean, I had no knowledge, but I taught myself. I mean, I taught myself. I was 20 starting in News Talk. And I it was Baby. When I think about it, it's insane. Yeah. But I remember going home after my first day of work experience on the David McWilliams' breakfast show is what it was at the time, which is like a proper current affairs breakfast show, and like Googling Oireachtas, like, Dáil Éireann, like I really didn't know, but I really wanted to be there, and I loved being there. I loved the buzz of live radio. And I just learned that you can fill in your own gaps. Like, as long as you have, I really think you cannot teach cop on and you cannot teach the right attitude. And I think if you have the right attitude and you have a bit of cop on, you can do anything, because you can learn the rest for the most part. You know, I really felt like broadcasting was something that I was just naturally good at. And I'm so bad at so many things. But this was the thing that, like, literally the first time I sat down in front of a microphone, I was like, this is it. And I remember I covered for Ryan Tubridy when he was doing his mid-morning show on 2FM about, oh my God, I don't know, be like 10 years ago now. I think it was actually 11 years ago. I came out of left field. Like, the reason that I got that opportunity was because a former boss of mine had landed in as head of 2FM. And he was kind of, I think, trying to show people like that he knew what he was doing. And I think he knew that I could do it. And I think he liked the idea of surprising people. I was already in 2FM. Like I was doing, like, you know, early mornings, or like, you know, Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I had never done anything prime time. Yeah. And I remember the whole station was like, what the hell? Why is she getting this? And even the two producers, I could see, like, I went in to sit down with them and I could see them just being like, why the hell are you getting this opportunity? And I actually just said, look, I know that you don't know me and you don't know what I'm capable of. And that's probably scary, but I promise you I can do this. I always knew I could do it. But unfortunately, the reality of radio is having the talent and the ability is one thing, but getting the opportunities is another. And it's political. And, you know, there usually is one, maybe two people making the decisions about who gets what job. And until we had this era of, you know, internet broadcasting and podcasting, you really had to try and fit into whatever mold was fashionable at the time, or, you know, really try and carve out a space for yourself. It was really tough. Yeah. Really tough. Like, I think I'm still processing how tough it was.
Now, like, I've heard you say that sometimes RTE has like ads on podcasts, sometimes your podcast. Yeah. How does that feel?
I mean, that was pretty good.
Pretty nice.
When I realized that RTE Radio was being advertised on my podcast, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
What do you think like when that change came, if you could see now, like that kind of like the advertising, all those movements, how do you think you would have felt?
Okay, so this is kind of embarrassing, but I wasn't that worried. I felt pretty confident that I was going to be okay.
Love.
That confidence was based on nothing. But I tend to just think that things are going to be okay. I don't know if it's like I have ADHD, which I never shut up about. And like, I think part of that means I really tend to live in the moment.
Yeah.
I tend not to think too far ahead.
Mhm.
I'm very bad at planning. You know, I actually don't think about what's happened previously either that much, unless it's something major, which I think is kind of a gift.
Yeah.
And
very Buddhist. Love.
But I also think I had this like weird confidence. Like I was like, yeah, I mean, why can't I be like blind boy? Like I moved to America when I was 7, really hard age to move at. You really just want to be like everybody else. Very quickly did my best to acclimatize as much as possible, adopted an American accent as quickly as I could, which obviously I still have remnants of. You know, I really wanted to be just like everybody else, but I couldn't be because I was Irish and because my family situation was really tumultuous. Like when I moved over, I was with my biological mom, and then she was an alcoholic. She couldn't take care of us. So we ended up moving in with my aunt and uncle, who ultimately became my adoptive parents. And they were 25 and 26, and they took in a 7 and a 5-year-old overnight. So like they had no money, none. So we didn't have the right food for lunch. We didn't have the right clothes. If I wanted to do, you know, cello classes, I couldn't do them. If I, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like they scrabbed, that's not a word. They cobbled together, I don't know, somehow gathered funds and like did their very best. And we did get to do some extracurricular activities, but like, you know, money was not readily available all the time. And so I always felt a little bit like I wasn't the same, or I wasn't as good as my classmates. And that was, you know, tough.
Yeah.
And I also was like, you know, I used to get bullied a lot for being fat, and it just was not a great time for me. I had a really good best friend, and then we kind of fell apart, as happens, I think, when I was about 13 or 14. And then, you know, I was pretty lonely then for a while. I even had a brief dalliance with born again Christianity, because I was like, maybe this is the way I can have friends, but I just couldn't actually believe in it. And so that was a real kind of problem for me in terms of being successful in the religion. But it wasn't a great time for me. I had great times, obviously, and I did have good friendships, but, you know, definitely not my peak era. But I kind of think if you peak in school, you're probably going to be a loser the rest of your life.
It's so true.
So I was 16, arriving in Ireland, just about to turn 17. And yeah, fifth and sixth year. Went to fifth and sixth year here.
How was that kind of plunge into Irish?
It was tricky. I actually had a really good year in England. And I was very like successful socially. I really had a great time in school. I did really well academically. You know, I was really at that stage thought I was going to be in musical theater. So I like did really well in that department in my school, and I was really happy. And I felt kind of confident coming into like, I was like, what? I'm cool now. And then I arrived and I was not. I found it really hard to plug in. Like I hadn't really ever drank before, and like drinking was a big thing, and I wasn't against it, but I just didn't know anything about it or how to do it. I felt like I didn't speak the lingo. I went to a private school on the south side, and I didn't understand any of the kind of social
like nuance.
Yeah. And a lot of the kids had gone to primary school together. So they'd been friends for 16 years. Like my best friend in school ultimately ended up being a girl who had joined the school the year before me, who had moved from Australia. And I feel like that kind of says it all.
Yeah.
You know, I always felt like I wanted to be like in Whelan's, and none of my friends were going to Whelan's. And I was like, when am I going to get to go to Whelan's? And then I moved to Galway to start a new radio station, iRadio. And I went with my former boss from News Talk, who was starting a new radio station with his business partner, and I was helping them. And I got to Galway and I was like, I don't know a single person here. And at first it was scary. Like I remember walking across the bridge from like Salt Hill and the Claddagh into town and being like, this isn't my river. I don't know this city. But then I was like, I don't know this city. And I don't actually ever have to go to a bar I don't want to go to again. I don't have to go to a party I don't want to go to ever again. I can go to the Roisin Dove, which, you know, and go to a gig every night of the week. And, you know, in work, I found my people who had similar taste in music as me and were into the same things as me. And I ended up having the most amazing 3.5 years in Galway. Like really formative years, really important time for me, figuring out who I was, what I really wanted to do, what was important to me. And And yeah, I love Galway so much. Like I'll love it forever. It was amazing. And Galway, I mean, Galway's really special at any time, but I think at that time specifically, it was a great time. Like all of my friends, almost all of my friends were like musicians on the dole or students. Like nobody was really, like I remember I used to have this rule that I'd have to leave the Roisin at 1 a.m. And like frequently I would be leaving and people would be like, why are you leaving? And I'd be like, I have to work. And they'd be like, you work? Yes. I not only do I work, I do a breakfast radio show and I am on air in 5 hours.
It's really interesting when I was like going through all of your like different accolades and your whole like professional and personal journey on the whole. There were so many things that I could like talk about. Like it was very Sophie's Choice-esque, like trying to choose what to do. But there's a real theme of life kind of in some shape or form giving you some sort of lemon and you kind of making really interesting and brave lemonade with it, you know? Like I think very much with the case of so many people and so many things, the most interesting thing could be the lemons that you got. But you've made like so many things have happened, but you've made so many more things happen.
Yeah.
You know, and like going through your cancer diagnosis and like managing that.
That's what I thought of when you were talking about it there, because I remember I had Hodgkin's lymphoma 10 years ago. I'm totally fine, thank God. I had 6 months of chemotherapy and everything worked and I was very lucky. But yeah, I mean, obviously at the time I was 32. I was just about to get married. I was not in the mood to get cancer.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't really convenient. I remember at the time being like, I need to take time off work because I can't be going in there every night at 8 p.m. Like that's just not feasible. I didn't know how I was going to feel. Like in the end, I was lucky. I had quite a good journey. Why you just can't talk about cancer without saying journey. But I ended up having quite a straightforward experience. And like, yes, obviously, you know, chemo is tough on you. And I couldn't have worked. Like I needed to be able to rest, particularly in the evenings. But I wasn't completely laid up. And I was like, well, I need something to show for this time. Like, so I wrote my book and I made a documentary.
Yeah, crazy.
So I think like that is an example of what you were saying. Like I think I just... Yeah, I remember just being like, I need something to show for this. Like I need something, and that feeling of like something good has to come out of this. I guess everybody says, you know, like everything happens for a reason and you always look back and you think, oh, this wouldn't have happened if that terrible thing hadn't happened and blah, blah, blah. And I often find myself consciously thinking during the terrible thing, what's going to be the good thing that comes out of this. I know this is going to ultimately be okay. And I know that eventually I'll look back and be like, oh, well, you know, I learned so much, or if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gotten this gig, or I wouldn't have blah, blah, blah. And I think on some level I was doing that.
You have a really measured outlook on things, it seems. At least like that's what you show to people. Yeah.
At the time, I very much was like, this is just something I have to get through.
Sure.
Like, this is just, the doctor says I'm probably going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I just have to get through it. It didn't feel seismic at the time. I think since then, it has had more of a kind of impact on my thinking, but actually more than anything, like in terms of the way that I see the world now, the biggest shift has been my mom has early onset Alzheimer's disease. This is my biological aunt, but you know, she raised me, and she is 60, and she has been, you know, experiencing Alzheimer's for years now. And, you know, she is someone who just made so many sacrifices for other people through her entire life, and like was just about to enter the chapter where she could do things for herself. And now that's been taken away from her. You know, she's lost so many of her abilities, and you know, she can't be independent at all really now. And so watching that made me really think long and hard about my life and what I want to do with it, how I want to live, what's important, what's not important, you know, the finite time that we have on the planet, like all these things that I think a lot of people would think would come with a cancer diagnosis have come for me through her. Because it's just so unfair. And you know, but then again, you're like, well, what's fair about illness? There is no fairness when it comes to that kind of illness, you know? But it just, you know, with her in particular, for me, she just never got a break. And you're just kind of like, you just never know. And if you don't use your time, you could be getting a diagnosis like that someday. And then all of a sudden, all the things that you were planning to do later, you don't get to do. Or the things you wanted to say, or the changes you wanted to make, or I want to be this kind of person, but I'm not actioning that yet. Like I'll do it next year,
Of course.
all that stuff kind of becomes more important. And that's had quite a big impact on me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you've like been kind enough to be quite vulnerable about this experience on your podcast quite a bit. And, I think it must be, I'd imagine it's so like exhausting knowing where to put all your feelings into relation to this,
It's really difficult. It's one of the most difficult things that I've ever experienced. And like that is kind of saying something because shit just keeps happening to me. I mean, first of all, I just want to say that I have her permission to talk about this. And my dad's permission as well. They both really feel like, again, like, it's not spoken about enough. And the more information that's out there about the reality of Alzheimer's and early onset Alzheimer's, I think in particular, the better. So I'm really grateful to her that she's let me do that, because it's a really difficult thing, because you don't know how long it's going to go on for. People ask you, how's your mom? And you're kind of like, well, it's only going one way. There's never going to be a day where I'm going to be like, oh, we went to the doctor and actually it's amazing. Like there's been this huge improvement, or, she's relearned this. Like that's not going to happen. It's only headed in one direction. So I think actually we tend not to talk about it, because it's easier to just not talk about it.
Sure.
And just let things take their course. And I actually find being able to talk about it, occasionally on the podcast or in situations like this is really helpful for me, because when you're, within your own family, everybody has their own feelings and sensitivities. And like, you don't want to be forcing a conversation on someone who doesn't want to have that conversation, who might not be in that headspace that day, because we're all suffering as a result of it, obviously. But I do really think that it is helpful to other people to hear about the reality of these things, to people who are in the experience themselves, or who have had the experience, or who might have the experience in the future. Like there's so much about Alzheimer's and dementia that I just had no idea. Like
absolutely,
I thought Alzheimer's was about memory, and that's the thing that people always ask me. They're like, oh, does she know who you are? And I'm like, yeah, she knows who I am, but she can't shower on her own. Like she can't really complete any task.
Yeah.
So like, she needs help with literally everything. So she's not her anymore, so the fact that she knows who I am, like, obviously that's nice, but it's not so much about remembering things. It's about cognitive ability. And I had never really heard that spoken about in relation to Alzheimer's, because we just don't actually hear that much about the reality.
In all of these situations, you seem incredibly adept at like reading a room, like you seem quite observational, at least in your head. Does it feel like that?
That's the trauma. That's being scared like almost all the time as a child, and being hypervigilant and very sensitive to everybody's feelings. Genuinely, I think that's what it is. I had addiction at home until I was in my 20s. And when you live with someone who's kind of in active addiction, you never really know what you're going to get. And you're kind of on, eggshells at all times, just waiting. And you don't know who's going to necessarily walk in the door when you wake up in the morning. What kind of mood are they going to be in? It's a very uncertain way to live. And it does make you super sensitive to mood shifts and things that happen. And I think that that's where that comes from. And sometimes I really wish I could turn it off, but it definitely is beneficial to me in the work that I do.
Yeah, no, it
no
is.
doubt about it. I've got, 700 different things pinging around at any given time. So sometimes I do feel like, am I just performing life, or am I actually living?
I know exactly.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And then I'm like, maybe everybody feels like that. But then sometimes you meet people who seem so comfortable in their own skin or confident or something, and you're like, no, it doesn't seem like there's any second guessing going on there. Like you are just existing. I don't know, am I being weird now?
No, because I was about to say, I remember you saying before that one of the things that clocked that maybe you might have ADHD was you telling your husband what was going on in your brain and him being like, what?
Yeah. I was like, what are you thinking about right now? We were watching TV and he was like,
the TV.
The TV show. And I was like, what?
How the other half live?
Honestly.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's time to jump out of our feelings and into a game. A classic game of Hot or Not.
I love a game.
I'm going to say a little word and you can tell me whether you're for it or against. In honor of you, our very special guest. We're going to call it Louise. That's hot. or Louise you. That's not hot.
Okay.
Not gonna lie, it's a tricky name.
That's hard.
This name is very hard.
Okay, so am I saying Louis Wee?
Yeah, Louis V.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what's the no one?
Louise you.
Louise
Not hot.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was trickier.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little pun comes more naturally.
Yeah.
Louise
Louise
McCary,
is a tough one.
tricky pun
Yeah.
name. Yeah. And you're a very big reality TV fan,
Yes.
as we all know. So in honor of that, we're going to do a special pop culture reality TV version of Hot or Not.
Oh my God, I'm very excited.
Oh my God, I was like, I'm in a fever dream when I was starting this off. Okay, first things first. The breakup of Paige DeSorbo and Craig Conover.
Oh, Louis Wee.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Love.
like had to happen.
I know.
Was
And
inevitable.
especially when it happened, I was like, for a second, I was quite shocked. But now in hindsight, I don't know why. Because the way it's all...
Well, I think we've learned a lot more about Craig since the breakup. I think she was covering for him in a million ways.
So many ways.
Yeah. And
So
now
many
we're
ways.
like, that loser?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Also, we're talking about Summer House. If anyone doesn't
Yeah.
watch Summer House, please do.
Oh, please.
If only so that I have people to discuss it with.
Well, you have me now. Because...
Honestly, whenever you mention it on your podcast, I'm like... Because I have solely watched the show on my own.
Oh, it's my
It's my
fave.
favorite
I
reality
love it
show.
so much.
I think.
Same. Me
Now,
too.
if Paige left,
Oh.
RIP, I don't know what happened.
No.
I love
She's
Sierra.
A goddess. I love Sierra.
Mm.
I love Sierra so much.
Mhm.
Hottest woman alive?
Hottest woman alive.
Has to be, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I would love, and I think actually it's time for a spin-off
Mm.
where we see Paige, Amanda, Sierra in the city.
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
just them. And
I would love this.
yeah. And then
Love this.
Summer House can keep going.
Yeah.
And we keep West, we keep Jesse. I like Gabby. Gabby could be in the New York show maybe as well. But we keep West, we keep Jesse, and then we get new people. And Carl needs to sail off into the sunset. Lindsay needs to. I think they're talking about Lindsay being on New York Housewives. Yeah, which I think is
Oh my
exactly
God,
correct.
genius move.
Yeah. Kyle needs to be off my TV.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God.
yeah.
That man, I cannot understand for the life of me what Amanda is. It breaks my heart. It
I
honestly
know.
breaks my heart.
I
I have
know.
to leave my laptop behind sometimes
I know.
to like take a moment.
So many women
I
in
know.
these relationships with these men.
Mm-hmm. And Hannah, the Hannah Burner of it all.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
know.
Justice for Hannah, to be
Yeah,
honest.
honestly,
Yeah.
especially now.
Yeah.
But they're doing well. I think
Yeah.
they're going to be okay.
I think they're okay.
We don't need our sorries. Okay, the current cast of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Oh, somewhere in between Louis and Louise. I think that I didn't love Bose on this most recent season. I think that she's amazing, but I didn't like her in the context of the Housewives.
Yeah.
I heard she's doing a show with Jimmy Fallon, like some
Oh.
like business show,
Love.
which I think makes sense for her.
Yeah.
I'm finished with Dorit. I
Mhm.
think I'm finished with Sutton. I'm definitely finished with Garcelle, so I'm fine with her having gone.
Mm.
I will watch Kyle forever, to be
Mhm.
honest. Erica, I could keep. I think her as a friend of makes sense. Because she's not really giving us anything from her actual life. So,
No.
who have I missed? Anyone I've missed, I guess I don't care about.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, can we keep Jennifer Tilly as friend of if we say
Yeah.
goodbye to Sutton?
I like when she just appears and says crazy things. A Bravo made Real Housewives of Dublin.
I don't know.
I know.
Because I'm very respectful of the fourth wall when it comes to the
Mhm.
Housewives. I interviewed Kyle, which was amazing. And I just couldn't say no because it was Kyle.
Yeah, I didn't know you interviewed Kyle.
Yeah, she was
Whoa.
amazing. She was amazing. She's so lovely. And yeah, I couldn't say no.
Mhm.
Because I love Kyle. But I've been offered other housewives
Mm.
and I've had other opportunities to kind of interact with the housewives. And I've always said no because I don't want it to be real.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to be there.
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, I loved when the Wives of Dublin or whatever it was called, they had to change it from Housewives
Yes.
of Dublin because of Bravo copyright.
Mm.
But when that was on, it was really fun. But I feel like I'm too kind of in that world now
Mm.
because I go to a lot of events through work and stuff. And I basically don't want to interact as a real person with any Real Housewives
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah. No, I
because
understand that.
It removes the fourth wall.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, if it happened, I would watch it.
Yeah, of course. I also don't know. I don't want to generalize, but I'm also like, I don't know how good we'd all be at that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if Irish people, I think we have too much shame.
I think so too.
There has to be a kind of like something about you to make you think of yourself and behave. Like imagine like doing like the dramatic scenes. Where would they be? Where would they? Now I love the idea of where they'd shoot.
Yes.
That
would be fun. And the thing is, there are definitely people, like I have met people who would be able to deliver that kind of thing. There are people who just are not born with the cringe muscle. And I respect them. I can't be around them, but I respect them.
Okay, that brings us up to the end of the interview. But before you go, I'd love to stop at your local. So I have to ask, what's your local baby?
The Bernard Shaw.
Oh, great.
So I feel like I have been on such a journey with the Bernard Shaw because in its OG location, it was the scene of many a great Louise McSharry night. So many birthdays, so many just like random, like, you know, having been out the night before and like rolling in on a Sunday afternoon and like just so much fun. And now I live really near the new location of the Bernard Shaw. And it's somewhere that like we go quite often as a family. We go over and like, we used to get a pizza, but the pizza truck's gone to Greystones now. I'm raging. But we go over and get a bit of food and maybe have a drink and play some Uno, or we might go over and watch the, you know, whatever football or rugby matches on. And it's just, I love that I've had this kind of lifetime with it. And actually we went to the Back Page recently, which is another body tonic pub in Phibsborough. And my son lost his Revolut card and I emailed and I was like, by any chance, did you find a kid's Revolut card? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I got an email back from this guy who was like, hey, I remember your name from the Twisted Pepper gig days. And he was like, it's mad, isn't it now? You're emailing about your kid. I have kids. We all have kids now. And I kind of love that. It has kind of grown with me. So I do feel deeply connected to it.
Okay, amazing. The Bernard Shaw. I'm glad that got a shout out.
Yeah.
It's nice to have places that you're like, you deserve.
Yeah, and I think it's important that like, because people are kind of like, oh, it's not what it was. And it's not. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
But it's still really good.
Yeah. I didn't live in Dublin, but I moved here in September. And all anyone was saying to me about the Bernard Shaw, because I don't live far from here as well, is, it's not what it was. And I was like, well, funnily enough, I wasn't there when this heyday was happening. So I'm glad that you chose this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. This has been amazing, Louise.
Thank you
so much.
I've had a great time.
Would you do me the pleasure of picking a track to play us out?
Yes, I'm going to pick a song from Self Esteem's new album, which I love. The album is A Complicated Woman. The song is called Focus is Power. I have this on repeat at the moment. I think it's a nice uplifting way to finish.
Yes. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take it on the chin just right.